Welcome back to Birthing Purpose with Lana. Today we're bringing the energy with the amazing Walric Peddie, who dropped his debut book, Compass, Understanding Your Purpose and Fueling Your Passion. I am here with my awesome co-host, Michelle Sales, author of Pivot into a Purpose-Driven Life. And together, we're ready to dive deep into the heart behind Compass, unlocking powerful keys to understanding your purpose and fueling that unstoppable passion inside you. This episode is going to be packed with wisdom and motivation to help you level up like never before. And of course, we're going to close out with the fan favorite game,
Divine delay or
or
just
just
stalling.
stalling. So buckle up and get ready and let's go. Hello, we have here today Walric Peddie. He is a Jamaican born author, actor, and entrepreneur, a devoted Christian, avid fitness enthusiast, husband, and father of two. Walric's diverse background includes years of experience in both the public and private sectors, as well as in international development. His personal journey of self discovery led him to pursue his true purpose, which is inspiring others to seek God in determining their own path. As an author, Walric has penned Compass, Understanding Your Purpose and Fueling Your Passion. Through his writing and as a speaker, he shares his story of transformation, aiming to motivate individuals to discover their potential, grow in faith, and create a life of positive impact. He draws of his experiences in faith, family, and fitness to inspire audiences with faith-based principles and encourage them to be agents of positive change. Welcome, Warwick.
Thank you. Wow. I mean, that was an intro. I like that. I was listening to you and I was like, oh, that's.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Yes, so this amazing book. Just let's get right into it. Tell us what caused you to birth this book.
Whoa. Well, I felt that this book was on my heart to deliver years ago. Having come out of a situation, I was a crisis situation, being 1 year unemployed, having debt collectors calling me, having my phone cut off, having my rent, unable to pay my rent, unable to insure my car, having to walk from where I live to my mother's house to get lunch, get dinner. So it was a point in my life where I went through this process of change and transformation. And out of that situation, the question arose, why? What did I do to deserve this? You know, because I was a nice guy. I helped people. Years being nice doesn't give you that access to heaven. You know, even the criminals are nice to who they choose to. So years after years, I kept hearing this voice saying, you know, Walric, write. And I'm not a writer. My response was, who am I to write a book? Who's going to buy it? Who's going to listen to it? So it was a self-sabotage. And not until 2024, last year, funny enough, my wife had a conversation on Zoom with a friend of hers who was telling her to write a book. And he took up these two books on Zoom and said, hey, look at my two books, because she has a Christian YouTube channel. And he was encouraging her by saying that this is the next step. So I heard a voice. I'm sitting beside her, and I heard a voice in my head saying, Walric, the time is now. And in that conversation, before it was finished, I said to her and her colleague, you know, excuse me, I need to go. And I went right to my laptop and I just started to type. It was so bizarre because I could literally see the first paragraph. I could see things unfolding and I just started to type. And then when I stopped, I went to my phone and I started to write notes on it. And then I picked up the next day and I kept going until completion. Yeah.
Wow. Because you had a story. You wanted the world to know how to avoid some of the pitfalls that you fell into. trying to pursue your purpose.
Yeah, yeah. Because I had my whole concept of faith, my faith was warped. You know, if you said to me in my 20s, hey, why don't you go to church? So I was going to church, I was attending church, I believed in God, but I never made that commitment.
Yes.
And if you ask me about becoming a Christian, then I would say to you, hey, when I get to my 60s or 70s, you know, I'll think about that. And that was my response then. But having gone through that struggle and coming out of it and recognizing that it was God all along trying to get me to commit, you know, it was an eye opener, because in the book I speak, I mean, I can tell you that when I sent out over 100 job applications, I graduated with a first degree, I had a second degree, a master's, and I just could not land a job. And I left the one before because it was becoming very toxic and it was affecting my health. And I remember when I resigned, even my employer at the time said, indirectly, you never know what's going to happen to you when you need a recommendation. And he did exactly that. I got an opportunity and somebody called him and he sabotaged me and I didn't get it. But it was okay. It wasn't for me to get it.
Right.
But throughout that struggle, I mean, you know, I remember at the time I had a laptop that my father gave me that I leaned up against my wall to pick up the Wi-Fi from my neighbors to be able to send out job applications.
Wow.
And I didn't have any cable, so I would watch movies online because I always had a love for film. So I'd still watch, I'd still communicate. And I remember on my 30th birthday, I just broke down. And I called my mother and I said, Mommy, you know, what did I do to deserve this? And she drove in her car, she came by. I mean, you know, it's still emotional because I remember she said, Walric, come back to church.
Come back.
No one was going right. My relationships weren't going right. I was meeting this girl that didn't work out. Nothing was going on. And God needed to bring me to that place.
Yeah. So what are some of the things you had to sacrifice or to get back to God?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? During that process, a lot of things. So I was always chasing the material in this world. I was chasing things.
Yeah.
You know, I remember at age 30, I said, hey, I want to have my BMW. I wanted to have a BMW. I wanted to look the part. I wanted to be a cheap copy of somebody else. I wanted that life that the world was giving me. And I was chasing it. After my first job, first thing I did, I bought a Swiss watch at the Swiss store. And I had it all twisted. And when I came to that point of being broken down to being reformed, I recognized one, Christ requires you to, those old ways, you have to separate yourself from friends, certain environments, certain, you know, company, because he may want to work in you and that may be a distraction. It might not necessarily mean that they are wrong for you, but where he wants to take you, they're not going. So they may not be the kind of persons you need in your space to encourage you, to support you, to give you some of the spiritual counsel you need to take it to the next stage. So that's one. Two, understanding, why am I here? I am created in the image and likeness of God. That's huge. If I am created in the image and likeness, that means greatness is expected of me. So what is my purpose, God? Why am I here? You know what you know, millions of persons, what's the skill you have given me? How can I grow it? How can I develop? Need to go to use it in a way in a way that you want me to make it, so you're fulfilling a purpose. Because for me, purpose is not a destination, it's a journey. And God will use you at different seasons, different times to fulfill a purpose that he has. And along that way, you'll grow and develop and build those skills. So today we're having this conversation. A couple years time, you're going to be going global. Lana Smith birthing purpose is going to be something that this is just a part of that process.
Lana more.
To arrive at the promise.
Yeah.
So those things are important and we have to seek God. I may say to Michelle, hey, Michelle, I think that's a good idea. You're good at that. Why you don't do that? But you have to take that to God to get that kind of validation and to get, you know, whether yes, it's true, or Should I do it right now? Or should I get more skills and let God guide you? Because it will come in, He will lead. It will happen. Even how we started our business is somebody came with with information saying, why you don't do this? And then we had to take that to God to get that kind of validation. Yeah.
So you had to sacrifice friends,
Yeah.
listening to other people's opinions, and just
Yeah.
focusing on what God had to say, and just your idea of chasing things and
Yeah.
wanting to have this like image and like impressing people and
Yeah, and trying to be something you're not.
right.
In the book I spoke about one of the movies. I don't know if you remember The Matrix. Remember
Yes,
this movie?
yes.
That movie was so significant for me because it was a lot of persons don't realize that movies often have a lot of biblical themes in it. With The Matrix, what was interesting is that when he took that tablet that was presented to him by Neo, took it from Morpheus, and it was a choice. Stay in the world, this world as we know it, where all the ads and the commercials and everything is trying to drown out the voice of God. Everything is telling you, you can do it all by yourself. Self-gratification. I need it now. I need it now. Whereas the choice that you have, you can go with the world, or the choice is to go with God and to build a relationship with Him. It's not going to be easy because, you're going to be challenged because this is not what the enemy wants. He wants to come and stay in the world, come drink, come party, come indulge, come satisfy your urge. You can do it now, have it your way, obey your thirst. No. And that movie for me was because it made me think deeper into the world that I live, and everything that we are presented with, we need to look at it through critical lens, through spiritual lens, and understand if this is really what it is meant to be, or is it an agenda that is trying to steer us in a different direction?
Yeah. So was there one moment in your life where this was the last straw? Like something wild and crazy happened where you're like, okay, enough.
Well, the breaking point, so when I left the job, month 1, okay, I had some savings, still good. Month 2, all right, I should get a job. By month 3 now was kind of crisis mode now because a series of things started to happen. So 1, I had an unsecured loan with a bank. They started to email me, pay $1 million by this time or else we're going to sue you. I was talking to the manager, explaining my situation with her, but at headquarters, my name was just a name on a paper with a debt that needed to be paid, and they were sending me these letters. So that's 1. 2, I then, after my phone cut off, I started to get a call from another bank about a credit card. Say, hey, you have this credit card. We see that it has a limit of like $100, but no, you owe $300. What's going on? In the situation, getting a little concerned now. Then my rent couldn't pay. So what was happening? I was kind of always scrambling where if the bill was $100, I was paying 50 or 20 or 30, trying to stay afloat. And then I had a glimmer of hope. I had a colleague of mine who worked with a company, and I told her my situation, and she said, hey, come. She was in HR. Come to me 2 days time. I'll look at your resume. I'll see if we can get you. So now I felt good. I remember putting on a suit. I borrowing my mother's car because no, I can't insure my car.
Right.
And there's something else was wrong with air conditioning. I live in Jamaica, so it was summer. It was hot. But funny enough, my mother's car never even had an air condition, but it had this blower thing, and I drove down I reached the gate. The security came to me and said, why am I here? And I said, I'm here to see the person. He takes out a list. Now, this is somebody I know who I consider a friend. He goes through the list. He doesn't see my name. I said, you sure? I said, yeah, I should be on the list. So he said, all right, do me a favor. Over there, which is outside the compound in a little spot, and try and see if you can get the person. I called, sat in the car, now starting to sweat. 1 hour, I called back again, no response. I sat in that car for 2.5 hours waiting for a friend to respond. I went back home, broken, drove home, and then 2 days later, the person called me laughing. You came home, I totally forgot about the interview. And I was so hurt to the point that I had no emotion. I didn't argue. I said, okay. That was the last time I spoke to them. Up that phone, and I realized I used to work in an industry that had a lot of events and fashion, and all the persons that I thought were friends were, I wish you all the best. It's unfortunate. And I remember going on Facebook because I carried grudges those days, and I started to delete.
Follow, right?
Yeah, so that took me, and then the final straw, I remember paying for some furniture that I took from a furniture store, and it was a small amount that I had to pay monthly. And I went and I made the payment, and then an hour after, someone called me and said, "Hi, Walric, we're calling from the furniture store. We see you made a payment, but you need to make another payment of $70. 70 Jamaican dollars is about probably was about 25 cents US. And it was that, and I said to myself, if somebody's really calling me to tell me I need to pay 25 cents, and I think for me it was it just brought to me the realization of where I was.
Right.
And after I broke down, that's when I called my mom, and then I started to go back to church. And then when I started to build that relationship, went to discipleship training, and a series of bad things happened. Phone cutting off, bills, bank.
Right.
Then a series of good things started to happen. My landlord changed, and one day I got a call now. So this is me now going to discipleship class. And the moment I made that commitment to Christ, a week later, somebody calls me. "Hi, this is Walric." I say, "Yes, I'm a new landlord. My name is Pastor Davis. I see you behind, but guess what? I'm going to work with him, man. Don't worry about it."
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Praise God.
Following week, got a call from somebody at the bank. "Hey, we see you're not working and you own the same bank that was actually trying to
sue you."
Yeah, I can't remember his name. He's going to work with me. Okay, still don't have a job yet, But no, I said, "Whoa, okay." My father is a chartered accountant. He said to me, "Listen, stop trying to keep your phones and internet. Those things are luxuries. Focus on the priority. Care about the furniture that you have. You don't need that. You're single."
I was going to ask you that. What have you learned about needs and wants?
Yeah, there's some things, and I to this day still have to apply that thought. Is it a need or is it a want? And the world wants you to buy what you don't need with the money you don't have to impress the people that you don't like. And I remember I got that from Rick Warren. That past, he always said it. So
I put myself on punishment one time where I was not allowed to shop for a whole entire year. It's like, you don't need anything. That's what I told myself. Yeah. And I did. I was like, no. Plus I was trying to have discipline. Like, no. So sometimes you got to do those harsh things to be like, put yourself in check. Yeah. It was like, yeah.
Even that BMW story. So remember, I told you I had this love with a BMW from I was in my probably around age 12 or 13.
Right.
So after coming out of this situation, and this is the important thing, is that you always be tested. The devil doesn't have a day off.
No.
He always come back, especially when you're at your highest. So you pray when you don't have it, and you pray a lot more when you do have it, because we see where persons in life, whether it's celebrities or persons, when they reach a high point, the fall is often greater because people spend money to build you up, and they will spend more money to bring you down, especially when you fall from. So it's very important that we don't lose ourselves in the world. Because I went ahead and I remember I bought this BMW, this Coupe. Oh man, it looked good. It was white with rims. Now here my guy married with 2 young kids, trying to live out this sporty.
Yeah.
Do you know that when I bought this car, the tires on the car, I burst a tire every month. I just couldn't understand it. Even when I went back to the dealers, they say, "You burst another tire?" I said, I was going like 20 miles an hour. I had to call a wreck, and I remember saying to God, "Yeah, you were telling me all along, and I had to be obedient." You know what obedient meant?
What?
To sell it. And I tried to sell it once, and then a voice came to me and said, "Come on, man. Just change the tires. Why are you selling it?" So I decided to keep it.
Oh, boy.
Then I burst some more tires. And I said, I'm going to sell it. And I found a guy who he does. It's hard to sell BMWs in Jamaica, especially even if it's 1 year old, because someone who wants to buy the car makes more economical sense for them to buy it brand new from the dealer. So no, and the persons even who sold it to me, now when I went to them to say, hey, do you have any customers? They had no time for me. Their job was to sell it to me. The moment they got me to buy it,
They were
they
done.
were on to the next.
Mhm.
So eventually I got it sold from to a couple, a young couple. And she was COVID and they couldn't get any imports of new cars. And when she saw it, she fell in love with it and she said, I want it. And she told her husband, and I gave them, they got the service package, they got a full warranty.
Wow.
And I ended up buying like a Toyota RAV4. Like something.
Humble yourself. Bring it down.
And it was a humbling experience to learn that that part of me, I have to manage to not to evaluate, to stop, to not make decisions in haste, but to take it to God, to say, God, I want to do this. Should we do it now? Should I wait?
Yeah.
Is this a part of your plan? And the waiting is always challenging part.
Yeah.
Know God's timing.
Yes.
So we if we try to accelerate it, we can delay the benefits. So do our own thing, we can interfere with something that He's working, and we don't know, and then everything falls apart because we are trying to do things according to our own will.
Yeah.
Maybe we're anxious, maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's concern, maybe we're just trying to get things done because imagine being in a situation where you can't pay your bills, debt is there, and you're thinking about the problem. And the problem is just getting bigger the more you focus on the problem. And God is saying, listen, I can change that situation just like that, but I need you to focus on me. I need you to trust me. Yeah, and I think that is the challenge for everyone.
Yeah. Michelle, wait. Can you relate to
Oh my goodness.
I know, right?
I certainly can. And I'm telling you, I am going through a pivot right now. And it's just everything you're saying is on point because it's true, So I'm literally, I have to be totally transparent. I'm living and experiencing what you're talking about right now. Coming from a total high to just trusting him, so I can relate.
Yeah,
sure.
and Michelle wrote a book on purpose as well and has a salon. She's very successful. And even still, we have to budget. We have to deny ourselves and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean, because what is really success? Is success because, think about, I heard this sad news with Malcolm Jamal Warner.
Yeah.
I grew up on the Cosby Show and I said to myself, wow, who would have thought that, you're on a vacation, planning this wonderful, and this happens. And it goes to show us that we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So what do we do with the time that we have? When we're having petty disputes and disagreements and arguing with people, when we die, people are not going to say, hey, I remember him. He had, $20 million in his account. They're going to be talking about how you made them feel, the impact that you had, the character, who you were. Any plan that you had to do will not get done because you're here no more. So it's important to us. I don't know what the situation is that you're going through, but in this world, we're going to have trouble. There's going to be something maybe next year, tomorrow, next week that we're going to have to grapple with, and we're going to have to deepen our faith. It's not going to be easy, but rest assured that God will take us through it, give us the peace that surpasses all understanding, and allow us to rise above. And when we do it, and through that process, we try to be cheerful. We try to be happy in our circumstances, try to be cheerful, giving back, helping, whether it's advice, whether it's time, whether it's talent, but resting in the comfort that no matter what that situation is, that you see me as a big man crying. I was like broken, and I was like saying, God, but after that struggle, then you rise above to, okay, what next? Then you're gonna hit some other roadblocks again along the way.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So what's your experience with sowing and reaping?
Wow. It's funny. Through the process of writing the book and searching for what's my purpose, I recognize that my purpose is one where I'm gifted to empower to encourage, to motivate, to lift up, to build. So I started to delve into that space. And I'm seeing where investing, sowing seeds, planting it in other people, helping them to grow, also helps me to grow spiritually and also open doors for me as well when I don't even expect. Because I'm not giving with the intention of receiving. I remember being young and I'd love to receive, but there's a greater reward or pleasure I feel in giving and seeing something happen for somebody else in a way that is saying, wow. I mean, sometimes you sit down and say, okay, God, when is my time? And that financial
Don't become sowing to me, right?
I mean, I wrote this book, right? And it's so strange how I ended up getting. So the publisher is Trilogy Publishing, and Trilogy Publishing is the publishing arm of the TV station, TBN. And weeks before, I'm here trying to find out how to self-publish, and I was getting millions of dollars when converted to Jamaican dollars from US. Like people were saying, oh, it's this and that. YouTube it, and I sat down and I prayed and I said, God, you have me write this manuscript. What am I going to do? I don't have that kind of money to pay these guys. One person who I did a consultation with her in, I can't remember what state. It was a no for her, and I couldn't afford her. But strange thing is that her newsletter that came to me had this thing about Trilogy Publishing. So out of that out of that situation that wasn't fruitful, from that same source, email came from her about for authors, Christian publishers. And when I called him, I spoke to a guy, and guess what? The guy's name was Noah.
Yeah.
Guess what my son's name is? And he said, hey, send me a manuscript, let us read. And I sent it to them. And then about 2 days later, he called me, hey, he said, Walric, can we talk? And I pulled over on the road, and I was in the car talking to him on the roadside I was like so excited for about half an hour, and he was guiding me on what the next steps were. And that is the beginning. And then how I got money, I started a GoFundMe. And I got some of the funds.
Well, people redeem themselves with you because at one point you're like, the people are terrible, deleting everybody, mad at everybody, and then you start a GoFundMe page, and so you had your faith back in humans again. Have you forgiven everybody?
Yeah, and forgiveness is important.
Yeah.
But I forgave everyone because forgiveness is not for them. It's really for me. And I was looking, you see, a lot of us look for the fulfillment that we need in our spouse, our partners, our kids. We're looking for that validation. You came on me, you did this, you cooked this dinner, you prepared this, and the response is okay. And you're expecting like he or she should know my love language. He should be he should be making me feel like I'm worth something. And when we put that worth and value, or where we see it coming from someone else, and it's not being reciprocated, but God is saying, no, Bible telling you, man will fail you. Remember when Adam and Eve, Adam made the apple, when Eve, and then she brought it to Adam, and when God approached Adam, he quickly went like this. Or you know what? She made me do it without taking that kind of accountability for himself, because you had a choice too. You could say no. So I think it's just very important that when we seek that validation, when we seek our purpose, that we seek it from God. And we have to, it's hard because you're living if you're with somebody for years and you're building a relationship, you still expect to hear, please, thank you, I love you. I can make you feel that make you feel good.
Yeah.
But who you are and is God. Because what if that partner doesn't make you feel?
You're just going to be miserable all day?
Erode your self-esteem, make you feel as if then that cannot be a healthy type of situation. And that is not how God wants us to feel. So we have to be careful, or be more, as my wife would say, be more aware of what the play is. The devil knows how to get you at those points when you're so vulnerable and play on those.
So what about forgiving yourself?
Yeah.
It's one thing to forgive others, but as we go through so much, sometimes you have to forgive yourself. And and a lot of times I tell people, have grace and mercy on yourself, be kind to yourself, because we can sit and beat ourselves up, woulda, coulda, shoulda, and
Yeah.
sometimes get into some self-sabotage or self-punishing and things like that. That can hinder your purpose too.
Yeah, yeah. Because you can be saying to yourself, boy, I wish I married that person or took that job and that's gone. And God have you here and now. So let me find out what is it now that He wants me to do moving forward and to love yourself, self-care and to
What's one thing that you thought was your purpose, but you found out it was a fad and it wasn't it?
oh. I remember back in the day listening to it's so funny, listening to Miss and P. Diddy, And I was saying, I want to be like a rapper and entertainer. I want to
Okay.
and live. And that was this misconception. You're young and you're misguided, and you're thinking that that's the kind of lifestyle that I want to have. And no, looking at it, no, that wasn't a part of God's plan. And that was what the world was. Yeah, that was just a hodgepodge.
How did you realize this is not it?
Well, when I couldn't sing,
All
I
right.
had a voice. I tried to sing. I remember I tried to start this. I was trying to start this group one time with this, but not singing. I recognize that those things weren't like even for in the book I speak about law school. Everyone said that you should do law, and I applied for law 3 times, didn't
Me
get in.
too. Oh,
Did a paralegal thing.
I'm a
didn't get in.
paralegal. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, my former career was paralegal.
And I worked in a law firm, and after working, I said,
I
no,
hated it. And like,
I didn't like it.
I didn't like it.
And I wanted the freedom to be who I was, and I almost felt like that just wasn't in God's plan. So that was and you see, what's very important? Our parents or close family members oftentimes have our best interest, but they themselves can't determine what God's plan is for you. Because you're telling me, Walric, why you have a career, go into law.
Same for me. Yep.
Yeah, but and they're doing it based on them wanting the best for you.
And we can argue.
And they're operating with the resources around them. Yeah. Maybe how life has presented itself for them, and they want the best for you. But when I was going at it, and I just couldn't get in, and I'm seeing other persons getting, I realized eventually that wasn't what God wanted. I wanted to meet people, engage people, work in international relations. I wanted to do film. I wanted to act. And I was sacrificing that dream because I felt I need to follow what somebody else was telling me. But God is such a good God that despite the fact that we may go off track, He will always steer us back to where we need to.
Yes, He's amazing, P.S. What about you, Michelle? Anything that you thought was a fad? that you thought was your purpose and you realized this is not it?
I'll tell you, not necessarily that I thought was it, but it just wasn't the timing. So it didn't produce. So it still lies within my heart. And I just know that, it's the timing.
I was talking about timing. That will take us into our game. I want to play a little game with you called Divine Delay or Just Stalling. Okay.
Divine delay or just stalling, right?
That's the name of the game. So we're going to ask you a series of funny real life scenario questions, and then you have to answer. This is divine delay, which means I was waiting on God's perfect timing, or just stalling. I could have done it. I just didn't want to. All right. So Michelle, we got our questions. You got them? No. Okay. So are you ready for divine delay? Okay, number 1. You said you were waiting to launch your business until God gave you the green light, but it's been 3 years and the website's still under construction. Is this divine delay or just stalling?
That's me, right?
Yeah, whoever. What y'all think?
Stalling. I think it's stalling.
Yeah, I would say stalling because you already started the business, right? So this is a part of the process. So you stalling. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next one. You felt led to write that book, but somehow ended up organizing your sock drawer for the 4th time. Is this divine delay or just stalling?
Just stalling.
Stalling.
Okay.
Disobedience, stalling.
I thought he was gonna say delay.
Okay, you keep saying you're fasting for clarity about going back to school, but you've also been binging Netflix during the fast. Is this divine delay or just stalling?
I'm gonna say delay. Only because it's like you gotta wait on the answer. You know, it ain't gonna happen overnight.
But you watching Netflix movies all the time during your fast.
So that's a two-part
Can you
question.
hear from God during your and you watching Netflix?
I probably need to take my mind off of it for just a little bit and then go back to it.
Yeah. Oh boy. I would probably say divine delay because you're not praying like all day, right? Like, you take a break, you may watch some Netflix because I'm that guy that would watch some Netflix because I'm always interested in film, right? But I would still pray about it and wait.
Yeah.
My past was that I would pray about it and act.
Yeah.
And I would not wait. I would wait like
Okay.
1 hour. Okay, God, that's enough time. I'm going to do
Okay.
it myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a
And
school of-
I think that's that period, that waiting period is where we sometimes miss it, where we think it's just going to happen right then and there. And it's like we get so stuck in that moment. It's like we have to move on and do something else until that true time come and trust that the time will come and what it is supposed to happen. But I definitely think the
What
delay.
about distractions though? Sometimes we can't hear from God because we're so distracted by the world. So when you're supposed to be sitting quiet listening to God, you got music going, TV going, you on the phone talking. God's like, I can't get a word in with them. They too busy doing everything else. What about that school of thought?
Yeah. No, that's a good point you make because during the wait, what do you do? How do you prepare yourself for that response? If we know that, okay, God, we're praying for something to happen, I think it's important that we seek ways to prepare ourselves so that when it happens, a lot of people, I remember someone said they were praying to be more wealthy, that the business would do well.
Yeah.
COVID came and the business did so well. It exceeded their expectation and the business grew significantly based on the service they had, but they were not prepared. They were never prepared for this level of success. So you prayed for it, now you get it. Now you realize that, oh my goodness, can I not get so much of it now? So I think during that time of waiting, we have to prepare. What preparation may look like may vary, based on what we're praying for, right?
Okay.
But yeah.
All right. Okay. You said you couldn't apply for that job yet because the Lord hasn't released you, but your resume hasn't been updated since 2016. Is this divine delay or just stalling?
Oh, that's stalling, man.
It's definitely stalling, but it also goes back to what he just said as being prepared when it do happen.
Okay.
Yeah, so
you were supposed to help your spouse start their ministry, but every time they ask you, you say, let me pray on that. Is that divine delay?
That could be actually divine delay too, because you may be waiting on some divine intervention to know how to help them, but sometimes it could be stalling to, oh man, this is too much work. I don't want to get involved right now. But oh boy.
All right. Yeah. God told you to speak, sing, teach, or build, and you almost did it, but you said, I need to watch one more YouTube sermon before I do whatever this is you're supposed to be doing in church, whether it's sing, teach, sing, or build. But you're like, okay, let me just watch one more YouTube sermon. Is this divine delay or just stalling?
I would say stalling.
I'd say stalling.
Okay. You said God gave you a vision to start a podcast, but you spent 6 weeks debating between 2 mic colors.
Oh.
Is this divine delay or stalling?
Stalling.
No, that's stalling.
You know you're called to mentor young women or men, but you've been recharging 14 months straight. I just need to recharge. Is this divine delay or just stalling?
Stalling. I think that's stalling.
Can I know that it's just one or the other, but even to touch on something like that, sometimes that's a personality type. Okay. It's stalling still. It's stalling.
Okay.
But I think that personality type can
that's good.
make it into make it into that divine delay. But it's definitely, to me, my personality type is stalling.
Okay.
But the only reason I say that is because I've seen it happen before.
But let me ask you a question. What would move you into action? At what point after stalling you said, okay, it's time to go now? Like what would be that trigger to say, all right?
Well, you depend on why they're stalling. If it's fear, maybe fear left through prayer, fasting, or someone gave you some information or encouraged you out of your fear. It just depends on why are you stalling. Fear, maybe you don't feel you're worthy, maybe you don't have the money, so now here comes the money and now you can do it, or maybe you have the wrong idea about whatever it is, how it's supposed to look like. Maybe you want to start off big and grand, and no, just get started. It don't have to be pow, poo, pow, so why are you stalling?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, that is actually to me with even the film side of stuff, because I wanted to do it, but then I was saying I'm not good enough. How can I really make it into the film industry? And I was thinking about getting the film industry in the US, and I'm here in Jamaica. How would that really work? And funny enough is when I really decided to claim it, because I did some films here locally when I was younger. And I realized, and I started to do a lot of the commercials. And then I went through a period of disappointment, and it's always burning in me. When I decided to, one day when I started out understanding my purpose, and I said, God, I did a vision board, and I said, I want filming, wellness, business, finances, home. All of those 5 things God delivered on. And when I started, I remember getting back into commercial, and then the casting director said, hey, we have a confidential film that we want you to look at the script, to audition for it. And I did the casting for it, and nobody is saying what this thing is. And by the time I got it, I realized it was Oprah Winfrey's Black Cake show. And I said, really? And I was playing this police guy, and we did this table read globally with people in different geographical locations. And, so I mean, to say that, then, you start to embrace. So now I'm at a stage in my life where I am going to embrace it once it's from God, even if I'm a little fearful as to, can I really do a good job of it? Or what do people think or say? I'm just going to do it and let the chips fall where they may, But I think that is the mindset that, I had to go with. And it has been bearing fruit, So there's some projects that I just completed that I'm hoping that one, I hope it gets on Netflix, another one I just recently casted for, another one in a UK TV series. Smaller parts, but another one is a lead role. So I mean, listen, you know what? We serve a God that's awesome. So let's see where he takes us,
Michelle, you had a good question about God, because we've talking a lot about God, but you had a good question about.
So my question was, sometimes people get a little frustrated in the process, and they get angry and upset with God. What would you share with them to know that, it is okay? That's okay. What would you share with them to let them know that it's okay, but to still move forward? Because I know you went through a process where you had to go back into the church to even feel anything. So what would you share with them?
Yeah, a lot of people are angry at God. They're mad, and then it's your fault. I can't trust you. Look what you're doing to me. What would you say to them?
What about you, Walric? What would you say to them?
Oh, that's so hard, because I say to them that, listen, we have such a merciful God that he'll meet you where you are. No matter what you have done, no matter the crimes you have committed, no matter, what the circumstances. And I know sometimes, and I can't relate, sometimes we may say we understand, but when you think about, a woman who might have lost a child, and the why question, why, what purpose could this, or we lose people we love, or good things happen to bad people. It's very hard to say, hey, God loves you. And they say, when God loves me, why would he allow this to happen to our child? When heinous things happen to kids, and and you say, it's hard. And for me, like, I just had this who, my wife, who connected us through. Her mother just died today. Like, I'm just, she was ill.
Yeah.
And, I'm like saying, how do you comfort somebody? I said a prayer, sent a prayer arm. I didn't, sometimes unsaid is good, but just letting them know that, listen, that God will heal all wounds. Yes, you're in a position now where, things are not really where you want it to be, but keep trusting him. He'll reveal it to you. And you have to pray to God and ask for the Holy Spirit to be able to, God, how do I read it? What words do I need to say, if any at all, to this person to help them in this situation? So it's one of these things, like being there, being present, being comforting, and reminding them that God loves them. And if they're not in the position right now to hear it, you have to give them that space. Yeah.
I do love hearing other people's testimonies, because I think that the more we share our testimonies, like you're sharing yours, and Michelle, you're sharing in your book and things like that, and encourage people who may feel like, where is God? To kind of hold on, to say, like, stuff don't happen overnight, or these things can happen to you, all this trauma or unfortunate circumstances, but eventually God came through. Even in the Bible, what Lazarus died, and it took Jesus a few days to come to heal him. They're like, wait, what? So just reminding them of those type of stories could help, or like just hearing other people's testimonies on how the things they've been through and how God did come through.
Look at David. David was running for his lives for quite some time, and God came through and he became the king. I mean, I remember I've adopted this position. Like, you remember the characters Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego?
Yes.
And I think King Nebuchadnezzar was saying that he wanted them to bow down to hit the idol of him. And they said, listen, we're not going to do it. And they held a position. They said that, listen, when you put us into the flame, whether God saves us or not, that they are prepared to lose their life because they will not go against him. So and I think that's the kind of position that I have, in the sense that, like, whether it's going to work. So all of us right now, there may be one thing that all of us are waiting on to hear from God. And we may be waiting weeks, days, months, years.
Right.
Over 40 years to get to the promised land. That's a long time. But we're waiting. But we have to adopt a position that, listen, even in this wait, we love you either. In this journey of a bumpy road, that we're going to be cheerful. We're going to be happy. We're going to give you the thanks. Because we know that when it happens, it can just totally, those 40 years, those 10 days, those 5 days, that one day when you get it, you're going to say, wow, yes.
Yes.
It was worth the wait.
It was worth the wait.
It was worth the wait, yeah.
All right. So one last thing you'd like for your viewers to know about your book. What last final message you'd like to give to them? Your book.
Actually, this book here, I would say that it gives you that introspective thought process to evaluate your life. Because although it's pulling from my experiences, but it provides you with tools, it provides you with scriptures, it helps you to look back at your life and ask that why question. Why am I here? And what is my purpose? And put it to God and see where it leads you. I can guarantee that once you're seeking him to fulfill that purpose, you will arrive at that promise.
Awesome. And where can they find this book?
So it's on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. It should be on Walmart as well. It should be in stores and bookstores as well. And I know at the end, it should be, the link would be in this video, right? So, persons can also order the copy as well, and put a comment on Amazon, and, reach out to me, and let me know what your thoughts are. I mean, I'm really excited to hear how it has impacted their lives.
So if anyone can reach you, how do they contact you?
So I have a website, which is www.walricpeddie.com. I'm on LinkedIn as well. My name, they can find me on LinkedIn. And I'm also on Instagram as well. I tend to post more of my family and fitness goals on my Instagram page as well. So, I discovered I'm the only Walric Peddie in the world. So I believe if they just Google Walric.
Right. Final question. Thank you. If purpose had a sound, what would it sound like?
Like a gush of wind, like a strong gush of wind.
Make it a strong gush of wind. All right. Let the wind of God lead all you all into your purpose. Until
Yes.
next time, thank you so much for being
Okay.
here.
Great interview. Love this.
God bless you.